shocked.
Yeah, first of all, thank you for being here. Appreciate you taking the time.
Absolutely. I appreciate you inviting me on. I've been watching your videos for a super long time.
That's really cool. I'm really happy to hear that. No, Rosetta come out. I love Aurora, and then you go and win the very first event. There's been a lot of speculation over the past few weeks of how good is she going to be? Is she too fragile? Does she do anything? How is she going to stack up? And then very first weekend, very first event. Oh, she won. Okay, great. I guess this year is good. So
that's how I'm feeling about it.
Yeah,
I mean, I was surprised too, to be honest.
So I heard that you won and you agreed to come on the show. So here we are. If you could introduce yourself to the class, tell us a little bit about your Flesh and Blood history, and end with why Aurora, then I think we'd all love to know a little more about you.
Yeah, absolutely. So, hello everybody. Hello class. My name is Michael Ramsey. I've been playing Flesh and Blood for a really long time at this point. I'm a verified Fab Boomer. I started a little bit before Monarch 1 originally came out. About like 2 or 3 weeks before then.
Wow.
And, I just loved the game since then. As for why Aurora, I've always been a huge Team Lightning guy since the very beginning. When Tales of Aria first came out, I saw Lexi and I was like, that's me. I'm going to play Lexi. And so I worked on her for a long time, had some decent success. Even back in Starvo meta, I got two ProQuest wins. Nice. With a Lightning Lexi list. You can even still find like an ancient interview with Dice Commando. I'm sure it's still up.
I'll look for that.
And so, ever since Lexi left us, I've been feeling a little displaced. Other characters never quite hit the same. And then they revealed Rosetta, and they said, hey, here's a pure lightning. You don't even need to think about that ice stuff, which is really good, but makes you feel bad in your soul.
Yeah.
No, it's just lightning. And I said, that's what I'm going to do again. I'm going to play that. I'm going to bring that to this ProQuest Plus, and we're going to see how we do.
Yeah, it's interesting that they release Aurora, and they say she's a Runeblade and she's lightning. And a ton of people think, okay, she's Briar. And you start playing her, and you're like, this hero isn't very Briar-like. She can draw these Runeblade hands of like, hey, you drew 4 instants, and now you can't block. But yeah, for the most part, you compare her more to Lightning Lexi, of like, sometimes you fuse, you care about go again a lot, and if everything lines up, here's 30 damage. And It's split, and it's hard to block, and she doesn't really do on-hits, and she doesn't really do disruption, she just does a lot of damage very quickly.
No, the on-hits is more damage, which is honestly exactly what Lightning Lexi did too.
Yeah. So it's really cool that you found Aurora, and that Aurora's sort of reignited that spark, so to say. So it's really cool. Why Runeblade? I guess, was Aurora your first Runeblade? You said that you played back in Monarch, so were you ever Chain, Viscerai, Briar, or were you just Lexi up until you couldn't be?
Surprisingly, never really dabbled in the Runeblade. I guess purple has never quite been my color. I was always kind of interested in these decks. I don't really know why I ever took the plunge. I love playing them in Commoner. At my local game store, we'll have Commoner nights every so often, and they're a ton of fun there. But in terms of like making that plunge into CC, never. I guess a big reason would be that Lexi was there, and I just played her. And after she left, what Runeblades were there, I was not going to put myself through Vincent or Viscerai at that time. So no, definitely my first Runeblade, but I sometimes doesn't feel like she's exactly like the other Runeblades. I don't feel like I have the same struggles as a Viscerai has to go through, the same struggles that a Vincent has to go through. I have my own unique struggles, but I feel like she's pretty unique there.
I think so. I agree with that. About how much prep would you say you did with her before the ProQuest?
Probably more than I should have gotten, which is, funny to say considering what I got. We'll get into it in a little bit, but I've gotten a lot of questions on like, hey, why do you run one of this card? Why do you run 2 of this card? It's like, I was kind of going on a little bit of vibe-based deck building at the time, and then I realized that the event was in 2 days, and I said, if I keep tinkering with this more and more, I'm just going to make it worse, so let's just ship it.
Yeah.
And my true deck building process didn't really start when the cards were revealed at the world premiere, because you see that and it's almost a little overwhelming just how much there is.
Yeah.
So my journey with her really started with the show match between Blue Pitch and Guard Guys, and we finally got to see, some starting lists. And I was like, okay,
Yeah.
I can build out of this. I can work from here.
I think what's interesting, or what jumped out from the show match to me, was you go back to Mist Fail, and you've got this hero Zen that a lot of people not in the pro scene think, well, this is just bad Katsu. This hero doesn't do anything. And then you have the show match, and putting shows as, hey, what about Bonds of Ancestry? Remember that card? Remember how good that was? What if you did that? And also your hero power. And it's like, whoa, this hero's cracked. I feel like Nathan and Pudding in that show match basically just brought what everyone thought Aurora was going to be. And Nathan got a little spicy with it with Spellbound Creepers and Eclectic Magnetism, but for the most part, it was like, what if we just took all the 0-for-4s and put them in a deck? Do you think that would be good? And that was surprising to me. That it's like, no, this is a straightforward aggro hero. You just hit things really hard.
Yep.
So,
Your cards have 4 attack. They have 0 cost. They have 2 defense most of the time. That you just got to send it.
Yep. Sometimes you can block, sometimes you can't. And when you can't block, you just say, okay, let's do this. Let's figure it out. So yeah, talk about your weekend a little bit, if you don't mind. How did your games feel? What was the event like? I'm from California. I haven't been to an event in Texas. Is that really your stomping grounds? Are you familiar? Did you drive in from out of the city?
No, so I'm a Houston local.
Okay.
But if you've never been to Houston, it's a very, very large place. We make our own jokes here that Houston is really just 3 cities in a trench coat. Even my own closest locals is like 30 minutes away.
Okay.
I don't know how that compares to everybody else, but some people have to drive an hour or more to get to Game Guys, the venue that hosted the place. I had to drive over an hour.
Gross.
But it is how it is. And if you're going from the south side to the north side, even longer. I'm lucky enough to kind of be somewhat in the middle of both of those.
Okay.
But yeah, the venue itself, the event, was fantastic. I really trust our judges. Matt Diggy is always, fantastic at hosting these events. The venue is really, really cool for the people that haven't been. It's a very big place. I know they host at least Yu-Gi-Oh! Regionals there pretty often, and they're always pretty big. And so, you get to sit in these nice gamer chairs and feel a little more professional about the whole thing. And obviously, the tournament itself went fantastic for me. I felt that the deck was good the entire way. I didn't really run into any super duper bad issues. You probably you can see me in the finals eat in a race face on turn 0 for the full 6 damage because my hand blocked the grand total of 0. But that's the character you sign up for. That just, you have to accept that's going to happen sometimes. But I faced a pretty big variety of characters. I got my run back against the one guy that beat me in Swiss. And even the top 8 was a lot of unique characters. So the event itself was fantastic.
That's great. It's great to hear. Well, I won't drag this out any longer. Let's do what everyone wants to see, which I think people would like to see this deck in question, maybe hear about some of these one-ofs. So
Let's do it.
So I've got the list here. This will be available in the video description below if you want to check this out at home. But I think for the most part, what I've seen, this is more or less what a lot of people are talking about with Aurora. But with some not interesting decisions, but you've taken different approaches to things that I have on my end. So I'll let you start with your description of the deck, what you're trying to do, maybe some of the one-ofs, whatever jumped out to you as far as this is why you play the hero, and then if I have any questions, then I'll ask from there.
Yeah, definitely. So, like you said, the main board is overall, I don't want to say common because the character just came out. We don't have much of a basis for what is truly common, but I see everybody in Purple Discord building, and it's pretty similar. But I do actually want to start with my equipment suite. I want to talk about it a little bit.
Please.
You'll see in the main board, I have Crown of Providence, Dyadic Carapace, Grasp, Lightning Greaves, and Starfall. Starfall, Grasp, I feel like that goes, without saying, it's best in slot easily.
Mm-hmm.
But I do want to talk a little bit about the others. So Crown of Providence, I know a lot of people really do enjoy Face Purgatory for good reason. The legendary, the text on it is absolutely ridiculous. It's extremely good. I do have it in the sideboard, but that's only for a select few matchups. I really, really value the consistency on Crown of Providence, what it does for you. Being able to turn a 0-block instant into potentially an attack. Mm-hmm. You know, we were talking that sometimes you just don't have an attack and you need to dig for one. And when it comes to Face Purgatory, you are an aggro deck. You don't always want to be blocking like that. You don't want to like trick yourself into making a suboptimal play to get a random card off of the top. You just don't have a lot of non-attack actions available to you, and the ones that you do, you generally want to play out.
Yeah.
So it makes Face a little bit harder to play, so I go for Crown most of the time.
How often do you block with Crown to try to fix a bad hand versus saving it for Command and Conquer? Let's say in a matchup where you would expect them to play Command and Conquer.
Most of the time I'll use the Sync and Arsenal. Just to dodge those kinds of effects, yeah.
Okay.
For Dyadic Carapace, I just really value 2-3 extra life on the armor. You can definitely slot in a Tunic there. You can probably get some better plays with Lightning Greaves. Spoiler alert, I didn't activate Lightning Greaves a single time this past weekend. But I will get to why I'm still running it in a second. But it just kind of does a lot. It's a lot of life. It's Arcane Barrier too for no real reason. You just kind of get it. And I prefer it for Tunic for the blocking. I found that I could never really use my Tunic counter to great success. It would basically just be used to swing a Starfall.
Yeah.
Which I thought, Dyadic might be doing more than that. And then Lightning Greaves. Like I said, I didn't activate it a single time this entire weekend, but I do still love it. You can definitely run Snapdragons instead, but I really like the Greaves for the huge roll compression it gives you. Mm-hmm. For the slot of just one slot in the 80, you get Battleborn 1, and you get Arcane Barrier 1, and you get a really bad Snapdragons, but it is something that you can use to get you out of a pinch when you just don't have a way to continue to extend your turn where you might want to do it.
Yeah, that all checks out. It's largely been my experience. I'm really gratified to hear you say that you did not activate Greaves all weekend, because I hear about these insane OTKs with Greaves and Gone in a Flash and Instants, and I'm like, I don't know how you're doing that because I can't.
I don't know if I'm just not playing for it. Yeah, I don't know if I'm just not playing for it enough, or if it's just not coming up,
I mean, it was good enough to win an event, so Battleworn 1 and AB1 is just good.
It's just good. All right, so we can move down to the main board a little bit here.
Yeah.
And like you said, a lot of it is standard, so I'll go through most of it really quick. It is, I believe, on 43 lightning cards. Again, vibes-based deck building. It's just what felt right to me, and I'll say that again whenever we get to the 1 and 2-ofs. Mm-hmm. But Arcanic Shockwave, Burn Up Shock, Discharge, Enlightened Strike, and Twin Lightning, all these cards, they're very good. They deal 4 or more damage. They have an easy way to get go again. And for the most part, they're lightning. The first 2-of that I want to talk about is Electromagnetic Somsersault. I think the card is extremely good. I think it's one of the most powerful cards in the deck. One of the main reasons to play Lightning these days. I think it's incredible. Mm-hmm. So I do run it at 2. And I hope that isn't too hypocritical to say. But I found that with the amount of instants and non-attack actions you're kind of forced to run, you can't get the maximum value out of the card that you want to, which would be, block 6, return them both to the hand.
Yeah.
The more attack actions you can fit, and especially the more 3-block attack actions you can fit into the list, the more reliable the card itself gets. Mm-hmm. But I found that there's just no real way to build the deck around being able to abuse it as most as possible. Most of the time you'll be able to return a 4 go again, and that's fine. There's nothing wrong with that. That's good. That's great still. But the downside is that it itself is still not in attack that attacks for 4.
Right.
So a lot of times if I found myself bricking it was a pretty huge contributor. And you definitely don't want to see two in one hand. It's pretty bad if you have two in one hand. For the Fry and Ravenous Rabble spot, you could definitely kind of flip switch that however you kind of feel like it. 3 Rabble, 0 Fry, 3 Fry, 0 Rabble, 2, 1. Doesn't really matter. I just found that I always wanted a tiny bit extra of these lightning starters. And, you've been playing the character too, and it's pretty surprising going through the lightning cards that you have available, how few of them actually have natural go again.
Yeah.
Especially ones that are attacks. It's pretty much just Fry, I think. It's pretty much just Fry. So I value that pretty highly, but I am a coward. I am very scared of cards that don't block. So I decided to do it just at the 1. I also want to talk about it. I decided on that as the 43rd lightning card, specifically because when we sideboard, takes them out. So even when we're sideboarding those lightning cards out, we still stay at 40. And then we'll go to Weave Lightning as a cute little one of. I really like the card. I've always liked the card. If you've ever done Weave Lightning into Arcanic Shockwave Fuse when you don't have an embodiment, you feel really, really good about yourself. I had it at 3 instead of Sizzle. So these used to be swapped. It was 3 Weave, 1 Sizzle. And I had the 1 just for Face Purgatory, just to get that 10th non-attack action that I don't feel terrible blocking with.
Okay.
But then I had my first turn where I had block with 2 cards in hand, Sizzle, Sword, make an embodiment. I was like, oh no, this card's better, isn't it?
Yeah.
I was a big, I don't want to call it hater, but I was a little bit of a hater of Sizzle. I said, there's no way that can make it in, right? It makes it in. It's pretty good. And then I think the last one up in the main board, or the last, not 3 ups, is this Heaven's Claw to 1 Sigil. I found that I just wanted one final little instant to go with the things that don't, or that do care about instants. I ended up figuring out over the course of the tournament, I think I'd rather it just be a 3rd Heaven's Claws. That'd be like one of the first switches I make. I love 3 blocks, and I love 3 block attack actions, especially for Electromagnetic Somsersault.
That was going to be one of my questions, is sort of, I've been playing with my Aurora list. Mine has the same 9 blues, which I think, putting several in the same amount, I think 9, at least to me, has felt like the sweet spot. 12 is too many, 6 isn't enough, 9 is good, but mine are all instants. Blink, Sigil of Lightning, Sigil of Conductivity. And I was going to ask why, because I'm playing around Gone in a Flash, thinking, well, if I have these blues, if I draw a second blue especially, I can turn it into Gone in Flash. And I saw your list and thought, oh, they're 3 blocks for the most part, 3 blocks and a Sigil. Is it Electromagnetic Somsersault? Are you trying to play with 3 card hands more often? And it sounds like that answers the question, is you just enjoy the sustain a lot more and being able to play with Somsersault than you do with Gone in a Flash, especially if you aren't finding those opportunities to use Lightning Greaves.
Yeah, I'd say Gone in a Flash is obviously a very good card, but I wouldn't say I try to build around it too much. Funny enough, before I made the list public, my most blocked with card was that Gone in a Flash. These days it's Current Funnel, after the community got their little hands on the list. They're doing a great job. I'm proud of them. But yeah, I did notice myself, Gone in a Flash is a good card, but it also blocks 3 and is lightning. And so I was completely fine with it being a 3 of in my list for that reason alone.
Yeah, that makes sense. And sometimes you do get the payoff, even if you weren't specifically putting cards in the deck for it. I mean, I think Blink... Blink just randomly is good, and I think that was my biggest surprise with Aurora. Like, this junky Majestic from Tails actually ends up being glue sometimes. But especially when you get the 2 card hand of Gone in a Flash, Blink, Gone in a Flash, like, oh, that's a 2 card 8 in a deck that has no business doing that.
One of the big things that did surprise me when I first started playing this list is you have like 1,000 different ways to 2 card 8 when you really feel like it. Whether you get the max value of doing that 2 card 8, it really depends on the hand that you just blocked or didn't block with. But like, the lines are there. Especially with Gone in a Flash, like you said.
Yeah. No, that all sounds great. That makes a lot of sense. That was going to be my question. That was my main question, is why the 3 block blues instead of the instants? And if you are playing to be able to block and playing with Somsersault, that makes a lot of sense.
Yep. We might be an aggro deck, but I still love blocking. I'm a blocker. Sometimes you just got to do it.
Aggro decks that can block are my favorite thing. It's what I loved most about Phi. Was
Yes.
this deck that doesn't seem like it should be able to block, and then you get hit with a CNC, and you say, cool, I'll block 6. And they say, what?
Mm-hmm.
You do what now?
One of the things that I really like about these aggro decks is the ability to actually play defense reaction in the sideboard. Mm-hmm. I dabbled in a little bit of 5 back in the day.
Okay.
And yes, being able to run some sync belows for when Oldham would send a Frostbite hammer at you, and being able to just cleanly block it with a single sync from Arsenal was an amazing feeling. And I'm glad that this character can do something pretty similar.
Yeah, I'd love to talk about your sideboard, because there are D-Reacts, there's one of Warmongers, there's, I love the Spellfray Tiara, and I do want to get into Crown of Dominion, because I read Purple Discord too, and Crown is probably what I see most often. Crown and Ironweave. Why do?
Yeah,
it's a very cool
perfect
answer,
question.
and I'll let you get into it because it's a very cool answer.
Yes, perfect question. I have been seeing a lot of people kind of wonder, like, what is this? How could you possibly do this? And the answer is Aurora actually has access to a very strong combo. Using her specialization Arc Lightning and combining it with Flicker Wisp. Every time you go again, you will deal 2 arcane damage, which is pretty good by itself. So what the Crown of Dominion and Aether Ironweave allow you to do is on this combo turn, is play that Flicker Wisp, fuse it, Arc Lightning, or do it the other way if you already have go again. Start with an attack, that'll deal probably 4, and then 2 arcane. You pop the Aether Ironweave, which gains you 2 resources, but also deals 2 arcane damage, because you win again. And then, using that 2 resources, you destroy the gold that Crown of Dominion gives you, which draws you a card, and because you have gone again, you deal another 2 arcane damage. So, on the combo turn, that's representing 4 arcane damage and the drop, which is extremely powerful, and exactly what I was looking for to kind of break through the defenses of some of these tankier characters, the characters that are more willing to block you out. You can see, I believe I did the combo 2 times while I was on stream, once versus Enigma and once in the finals, and I was very, very far behind in life totals. But as soon as that combo goes off, you can watch that life total just quickly go down and down and down until we're even, and then it keeps going past that until I am ahead.
Yeah, it's a great combo.
That's the combo. Yeah.
Very cool. Very cool to see Flicker Wisp actually be a card that people play. I started really high on it, and then we got no fuse in the set, and I thought, well, this card is not very good. And then it started popping back up as, hey, you need to beat Victor, you need to beat Florian, you need to beat Enigma, you need to beat these decks that will just block your burn-ups and your Channel Lightning Valley effects and run AB1 and a bunch of blues. It's like, well, what if they can't AB1 it?
Yep, it'll break right through.
I see you're on Exude Confidence, only 2 of. I like the card as well, just being able to say, especially when you have embodiment and you get to start the turn with Exude Confidence, saying, you are going to give me cards from hand, you cannot give me a D-React to stop this. Feels really good.
It's a pretty good card. It can be a little awkward sometimes. Generic cards, especially, can just feel a little awkward in your hand because you have so many things that like want you to have a lightning specifically. But a lot of things will at least still work with elemental. Very few things work with a generic card. So you need to play around you having Exude Confidence a little bit. But like you said, as long as you can keep up an embodiment of lightning, the card is strong.
4D reacts, 3 sinks, 1 sigil. Is that something that you, in testing, again with Vibes, said sync below is going to be better, but I want that 4th D react? Is this something that you tried 3 sigil, 1 sync, 2 and 2, and you just decided that sync was better?
I'm glad you understand me because that's exactly what happened down to the last little detail.
Okay.
I started with 3 sigil, decided, oh, this isn't like quite as consistent as I might want it to be. Sometimes these decks just kind of randomly have something floating.
Mm-hmm.
And so it was kind of screwing me over. I didn't like that it wasn't dealing damage and it wasn't getting into 4 defense. So I said, let's try 2 and 2. And that was going pretty well. But, while I was doing that, I was like, Sync is really good. Sync is a very, very good card.
Sync is a very good card.
Yeah, again, especially in a deck like this where sometimes you'll draw some awkward hands, some cards, or some hands that might not have like the easiest access to go again. And so you just kind of sync, see if you can find something.
Mm-hmm.
And so, yeah, I ended up with the 3-in-1, deciding, in matchups like Assassin, I do like having that 4th one. It just, the vibes were right with it.
Okay. You'd said on Discord, if I recall correctly, that the single Warmonger's Diplomacy is more of a budgetary thing. You just don't own the 2nd and 3rd copy.
Yeah, I just kind of forgot to get them. If you could get your hands on some copies of Warmongers, I would probably recommend going up to 3. Completely up to you how you want to change the sideboard, but I would definitely look at the Sigil of Suffering, the Exudes, maybe even the Spellfray Aurora, depending on, the prevalence of Kano in your area. The TR is exclusively for Kano.
Mm-hmm.
And we have some very good ones in our area, so I wanted to pay my respect. But I would probably run Warmongers, especially because it's looking like Azalea might be one of our hardest matchups.
Mm-hmm.
And we get to actually play it. We're a Runeblade that gets access to Warmongers, and that's pretty nice.
Yeah. Unless there's anything else you want to talk about specifically with cards in the deck, that is a great segue into, in your testing and in your games, what have been your hardest matchups and how are you addressing them, and how do you think the list might need to change in order to address those matchups?
I was pretty happy with every matchup going into it. I think the deck surprises you on just how powerful it is.
Mm-hmm.
So we'll start with New and Azuri, but most people that are playing Assassin are playing New.
Mm-hmm.
And they're very hard to play against. It's just kind of how those decks are, and it feels kind of bad when you want to do your thing, but Assassins are constantly saying you cannot do the thing.
Right.
So against them, I do not run the combo. It would be really nice, but I find that it's a little too easily disruptible.
Mm-hmm.
You can't really expect to sit on an Arc Lightning or Flicker Wisp for really more than like 2 or 3 turns, especially versus these Assassins.
Yeah.
And so I go with Face Purgatory here so that you can play around a react. But when you really get into it and you respect what the Assassins can do, we were talking about it a little bit earlier, but you have a lot of the ingredients to find success in those matchups. Electromagnetic Somsersault can come in pretty clutch. You can use it to dodge some effects and to just block.
Mm-hmm.
And the prevalence of 2-card 8s is pretty good. Something that is very, very nice is that depending on the hand, there can be a lot of redundancy in your cards. You'll look at them and goes, okay, this attacks for 4, this attacks for 4,
mm-hmm.
this attacks for 4, and like this is a blue, and I don't really need it, but it's nice. So you can be staring down like a Bonds of Agony and just kind of be okay with it.
Yeah.
A lot of decks don't get that luxury. So I found that as long as you give the Assassins the respect they deserve, and instead focus more on maximizing your smaller hand plays,
Mm-hmm.
that you can find some good success. E-Strikes, Entwine fused with a Flittering Charge are like really good plays that are just above rate damage.
Yeah.
And of course, bring in your sinks. But that's part of the respect, right?
Bringing the Sinks, bringing the Sigil. Although to your earlier point of heroes that just happen to have resources floating, that was my experience with New.
Yeah.
Sometimes this hero just pitches the blue, plays Command and Conquer is a bad example, Weakest Link. You're like, this blocks 3. I cannot, they will pay. They have a lantern.
Yep. Or, like sometimes it'll just be like dagger into Leave No Witnesses.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, yep, they will always have that one floating.
Yep.
Or just that tunic will sit there, and sometimes they just don't always have to use it immediately.
Mm-hmm.
And it's there.
It's just there. That makes sense. Do you bring Sigil into Assassin?
I wouldn't. No, not Sigil of Suffering. Distinct for sure.
Okay. How has Florian felt for you? That's one that I hear. My personal experience with Florian is that it is a bad matchup for Aurora. He's very tanky and hard to punch through, but I have heard from other players that they feel like Aurora is favored in that matchup.
Yeah, I was personally feeling really good into Florian. There's a couple things you have to keep in mind. The combo, this is a combo matchup, 100%. Because like you said, they're very tanky. It can be hard to break through. You'll give them a tiny bit of space, and then you get hit with the Felling of the Crown, and it feels bad.
Mm-hmm.
So what I learned is that while this is a combo matchup, you really can't tunnel vision on it. Do not hyper focus on it, because you will get plow undered at the most inopportune time.
Okay.
And there's just nothing you can do about it.
Mm-hmm.
If it comes together, awesome. But you're really just trying to play your aggro game plan.
Mm-hmm.
Depending on the list, and there's been a lot of Florians on Talishar, but that isn't always the most indicative.
Mm-hmm.
But the ones that are trying to be more defensive, I found a little bit more success against, actually.
Okay.
Just because you present so many breakpoints that it takes time for them to ramp up, right?
Mm-hmm.
So a real kind of outblast, as LSS likes to say, right? Instead of them trying to outlast.
Yeah.
If the combo comes together, fantastic. That is, I don't want to call it an instant win, because so many things can happen in a game of Flesh and Blood.
Mm-hmm.
But it normally puts you in a commanding enough lead that you can just kind of grind them down at that point.
You break your crown, or you break your Iron Weave, you break your gold, you fire off this massive combo, and then depending on how the game has been going, you still have Flicker Wisp and Arc Lightning in your deck. It'll be a smaller combo, but it'll still be damage.
Yeah, I don't even hate Flicker Wisp, just to kind of keep around or draw off of a Channel Lightning Valley.
Mm-hmm.
It's just like it's guaranteed to happen.
Yeah.
And Flicker Wisp is like definitely not great by itself, but if you've already come through the combo, then it still pairs really nicely with a card like Arcanic Shockwave, which does the ping of damage, and Static Shock, which still does 1 ping of damage, but instead it increases it to 2, so you can like kind of make it an awkward little head jab, but much harder to prevent head jab.
Yeah.
In terms of like not hyper focusing on the combo, a lot of times I will be okay with using one of them if I see it in like the first 2 to 3 turns. If I see an Arc Lightning early, I'd say I'm not going to sit on this quite yet. I haven't seen any plow unders. Nothing has really happened, so I'll just let it go.
Yeah.
Let it rip. It's after the second one, when it's a little bit later in the game, that I'll try to consciously focus on arsenaling one. And if life totals are getting a little low on your part, then Arc Lightning without Flicker Wisp is still very, very good. You can still Arc Lightning, pop Iron Weave, pop the gold, and that's still a lot of arcane damage and still a draw.
Mm-hmm.
So sometimes you just kind of got to go for it.
Yeah, that makes sense. What else? You said Azalea as a difficult matchup for Aurora.
Yeah. I haven't played it too much.
Dominated 14 power red in the ledger is going to mess up any hero that actively wants to go wide.
Definitely. All you can really do is hope that your instants line up well. Hope that your E-strikes kind of get you out of some sticky situations. But otherwise, pack your Warmongers. Pack your Warmongers and hope it gets you there.
Pack your Warmongers. Aurora does have these nice plays where you get red in the ledger with 4 reds in hand, but one of them is lightning. So you say, all right, here's Gone in a Flash for 4. I'm going to pitch 2 reds into Aurora and arsenal my 4th card. And it's like, Was that a great way to use 3 cards? No, it was a terrible value. But was it a great way to take advantage of only having 1 action and a bunch of reds? Yeah, it was really good.
It's pretty nice to still be able to keep plays around, and it's almost a little bit like Zen versus Azalea, where you would think that Azalea is this massively favored force just because 14 dominate red and ledger. What are you going to do about it? But when you're afforded the space, when you aren't disrupted super heavily, you can really output some huge amounts of damage, especially. And we haven't talked about the card this whole time, but it is incredible, especially when Channel Lightning Valley is on board. You're going to get the draw against Azalea. It's going to happen. And so you can start, I don't want to say like massively outvaluing her or anything, but you can still put up some very respectable numbers even through like a Remorseless. I've definitely eaten a big Remorseless. through just damage. And through a frailty, through a blood rot, it's okay to take it sometimes. You just have to know when your time is to strike back.
Well, I mean, Aurora is a deck where sometimes you do just take it. Your hand cannot do anything but take
sometimes you don't get a choice.
But it is the advantage of Aurora compared to a hero like Lexi or Phi, where she can just bring this fridge. And if you're bringing Crown of Providence, Carapace, Grasp, Greaves against Azalea, and you have a 3-block in hand, sometimes you get to say, okay, I'm going to block 10. This is when we're cashing this in. We're going to block 10. I'm going to crack back with a 4-card hand.
Notably, I haven't had this happen to me yet, but I consider 7 a pretty important number versus Azalea because, that's like Lace with Blood Rot, Send, and this arrow.
Yeah.
You really want to block that. But it really sucks giving cards from hand. So you do have, if it's all still up and active and fresh, you do have 7 block on your armor.
Yeah. I mean, it is not as strong as Zen's 7 block on armor. Hopefully no one will ever have Zen's armor suite, but the 7 block is extremely relevant. We saw that with Zen.
Definitely.
Blood Rot with Endless Arrow, Command and Conquer with Might. It's very good. She's a very good armor suite for a glass cannon hero.
Yeah, I think, we're a little bit away from the sideboard at this point, but I think that armor suite, that kind of ability to use your fridge successfully, is a huge part of why she's a good character, frankly, because you are running these instants like we've been talking about this whole time. You are running these 2-block cards. It's the armor that really lets you be okay with it.
Yeah. I agree completely. Are there any other matchups specifically you want to talk about? And if there's anything that you're thinking, maybe this isn't so much of a problem now, but as Aurora gets figured out, or, this deck is really bad for us, but no one plays it yet. Are there any changes you would make to the list to adapt to where you see Aurora sitting in the meta and what her top competition is going to be?
So I am pretty happy with where I ended my list, even though it's all about the vibes. There's definitely optimizations that can be made, but I think I'll just have to leave that to other people to figure out. I have been seeing an uptick of Sigil of Solace in some Aurora lists. I'm pretty interested in that card. It does a lot, heals you, and is still an instant. So when it lines up, I can see it being very, very nice. I'd definitely be interested in experimenting with that. And I know you said you didn't love 12 blues, but I almost kind of... I never experimented with 12 blues on myself. Like I said, I didn't have a whole lot of testing time. So I started with 9, stuck with 9. I started with 15 and decided, wow, this feels terrible.
Yeah.
And went straight down to 9.
I think I started with 15 and then said, what if I tried 18? And then 18 was just the worst thing I've ever had happen in my entire life.
We really do not have the blues to do anything when there's 2 blues in that hand.
One, I would try to talk myself into, well, if you have a 2 blue hand, you get to pitch into Grasp, and then you get to pitch into Aurora and play it for start, and that's so good. And the problem is if you value your second blue at 1 because you pitched it to a Grasp, that's a bad card.
It's just not there,
one card for 1 damage is not where we want to be. 12 felt like I would draw the 2 blue hands a little more frequently than I wanted to. And even keeping Channel Lightning Valley around for a second turn, like, when you find the blue, that's great. And I think that's what I do often with 9 blues. But I'll pitch a red into Channel Lightning Valley. That's fine.
Oh, definitely. I expect that when I play my Channel Lightning Valley, I'm pitching a red to the sword.
Yeah.
And I'm okay with it because it keeps Channel Lightning Valley around.
When we have reds that we're never happy to pitch, none of our reds are worth 2, but if I can pitch a Lightning Press or a Discharge or a Somersault to sword, it's like, I lost 1 point of value to keep the Channel Lightning around, and now
so was it really a point lost?
Yeah, this is something just briefly that I really like about her is she seems very hard to fatigue, because you will be pitching red so often that you get into the second cycle and it's like your deck is still full of gas.
Fatigue is not something I've been worried about. I don't think it's something I will worry about too much. I mean, maybe I'm speaking a little too soon. We did see an Aurora get fatigued by Choose Your Blessings at that recent Battle Hardened. But I don't know. I am not completely convinced that's super duper real yet. I do believe it's good. I am about this much afraid of it. But if it does, and you know you're getting fatigued by Choose Your Blessings, the combo is pitch stackable. Like there's nothing wrong with pitch stacking the combo, or just making sure that when it goes off, it is big.
Yeah. Yeah, Count Your Blessings. I played against it once on Talishar, and it was, not frustrating's a hard word for it. It feels like when Oldham got Winter's Well banned, and so they all started running this massive 75 card life gain pile. It's like, so you're just griefing me now. I'm gonna win.
Yeah.
We know I'm gonna win. It'll just be 45 minutes before I do it.
We just got to get through this first. Yeah.
Well, I appreciate you coming on the show. I appreciate you talking to me about this. Do you have closing thoughts? You want to give shout outs? This is your time. The floor is yours.
Yeah, so I'm very happy with Aurora. She seems very unassuming. She's still, I'm looking at my own deck list, and I'm like, wow, this is actually really good. And yeah, she is very good. Mm-hmm. I expect that she'll continue to, she'll get better, of course, and my play was definitely not perfect throughout the whole weekend. And so there will be better players to make this list better and to pilot her better. But I'm happy with where she is, and I think she'll still settle pretty high up there, especially since we're all convinced that Enigma is very good. Mm-hmm. This deck feels great into Enigma. It just, I don't want to say she is going to warp the metagame herself, but she will definitely be a big contender. So I couldn't really be happier about that as a staunch member of Team Lightning.
Yes.
In terms of shoutouts, first of all, my finals opponent, Evan Ford. We go to the same store. We're locals. I see him every week. To get that finals in the event was awesome. I have won, and I was very happy. But Evan could have killed me, and I thought he would for a while there at the end of the game, mm-hmm. and I would have been just as happy.
Mm-hmm. That's awesome.
My brother also made top 8 of the event, Robert Ramsey, and he's also the one that, first of all, even told me about the existence of the Flicker Wisp combo. Mm-hmm. And I said, wow, that seems really bad. I don't get it. And he told me to keep trying it. He insisted on it, and I kept playing with it, and I found that the Florian matchup that I was having a really hard time with against him suddenly flipped around really fast, and I said, okay, I get it now. Mm-hmm. I, of course, want to give a quick shout out to the judges. Matt Diggy, I love you. Thank you very much for hosting such a huge event. And my final shout out has to be for Hemal Patel of Hammurabi TCG, getting me, he's local to me. He goes to my store.
Fantastic.
I also see him every week, which is very helpful when you need to build a deck for an event the day after set releases. So thank you very much.
I have my package come from him. It's in the mail right now. I do not know what I would do without him.
You're getting the dust?
Getting the dust. Getting the dust. I already know what I'm going to make with it. My stomach is ready. Looking forward to doing it again next set when I say, surely, this time. One thing, they can't keep not printing support for Phi. That'd be so silly.
We'll get there. Hopefully.
Will we?
Hopefully. I have faith.
I just keep wondering how we're going to do a return to Volcor with no Phi support. It's really going to be just a masterful design from LSS.
It'll be there. You'll get another 3-block blue.
I'll take it. That's all we need. Give me a Blaze Headlong, please. Just number 2. Make the deck so good, except now I just have Aurora, where every card is Blaze Headlong.
Honestly, she is kind of just Phi, but today, 2024 Phi.
Yeah. She's Phi, but good and interesting.
Yeah, absolutely.
All right, well, thank you so much for being here. Really appreciate you taking the time. I'm going to link this deck list in the video description. If you aren't already playing it, give it a shot. Proven, you 100% will win your Pro Quest with this deck.
I guarantee it.
All right, thanks a lot. Appreciate you.
Absolutely.
All right.
You too.
Bye, everyone.
See ya.